Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Wednesday the 26th of February, and in this educational video there's no recommendation or advice whatsoever. It is for educational purposes only. And today we'll start with Tesla that yesterday got beaten or 90% around that level, closed below support at 309.25. Is a very bearish trend here, and we could see it dropping to 275, 271, where we have some support in the 200 moving average coming up, but we have the support here also. But there's potential lower to 250, 240 area where we have some stronger support. And just very quickly on the weekly chart, we can see the massive sell-off, and we could come down to this area here where we also have the 55 weekly coming up, the 200 and the 100. So 250 is a potential target short term for Tesla. We see negative sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating likely lower levels. It really needs to get back above 367.35 to reverse that bearish picture. On the S&P500, excuse me, we tested yesterday key support at 5,905, and then we bounced, and let's just zoom in here. And just the cloud area also being tested. RSI tested the 40 threshold, but closed above. We could see a bounce here the next couple of days, but if we close below 5,900, well, then there's potential down to around 5,780, 5,773, where we have some support, and even down here to 5,700 level, where we have the 200 moving average coming up, so giving some support. So there will be some support in this area here. Also just add this, and you see there around this level there will be 5,700, be some support. Nasdaq 100. Excuse me, Nasdaq 100 did also test its support, 20,974 yesterday, spiked just below the cloud, just below the 100 moving average, and the RSI actually did close below 40 threshold, so that is actually indicating bearish sentiment or negative sentiment. But I think we will see a bounce here the next couple of days, and just pre-market we can see it actually is up a little bit here, pre-market about 0.5%. I think after market today, as far as I remember, Nvidia earnings that can really move something, so that will be interesting to watch. The Dow Jones index bounced from 43,373, and the RSI was actually below 40 threshold there the other day, so negative sentiment, but we are still above the cloud, and could bounce here the next few days, but it will also could hinge a little bit on Nvidia. But Nasdaq and S&P especially will be heavily influenced by Nvidia. I look to the Far East, and Seng that today had a very good day, 3% up. Closed well above the pivot line here, bullish bearish, where it has hovered around. It indicated it could see a correction, but it did hold on, and as we can see here on the weekly, it is pushing higher, and there's now potential up to the 25,000 area, where we have some resistance. Very strong trend indeed, and that was a statement. If it can hold itself above this candle here, which is the low 22,726, well, then it could continue higher. Europe is still doing good, despite setting back a little bit last week, and performed this top and reversal pattern here on the EuroStoxx 50, but buyers are still around, and there's no divergence on the positive RSI sentiment. We could see a positive day today. We are indicated 0.25% higher, and we are trading around this rising trend line here. However, we are in a little bit of a correction mode. Could see it drop to 5,400, maybe a little bit lower, but the bullish trend is intact. And here we can see a pre-market. We are up just a little bit, about 0.25%, and I think we could push higher in the coming days. DAX DAX also in a bit of correction mode. Just let's zoom in there. Couldn't hold on yesterday. Closed more or less unchanged, but here pre-market we're up a little bit. But let's see here the next couple of days. There is still potential higher, and it is stretched, but if it closes the gap down to 22,148, well, then we could see a sell-off down to 21,800. If it can bounce off and move back above the yesterday's peak at 22,575, then I think we'll see uptrend resuming. FX market has been fairly muted. We have the euro dollar still below the 100 moving average and still below resistance at 105.35. Basically moving sideways out of the cloud area, so not really a strong indication here. If we move back below 104, then we could see a push down to 103. So we are basically caught range bound here. But 105.35 is key resistance for a move up to 106. Cable or sterling dollar dancing around the 100 moving average, just above the 126 support. There should be potential up to 127.85, 128, but it is not really convincing at the moment. But let's see if it starts moving back below 126. Keep an eye out on, and let me just add that horizontal line there. Okay, there we are, 125.63, so 125.60. If it moves back, then we could see a push towards 124. Euro sterling. Euro sterling is has bounced off 82.60 free support. Could bounce further to 83 and a quarter maybe, but we are in a bearish trend at the moment. Dollar yen still finding support here at 148.65. Dipping a little bit below. I think we could see a bounce up to 150s, but 95, maybe up to 152.40. If it takes out the lows here from yesterday at 148.55, then we could see it dropping to 157.5, 157.20. But I think we will see a little bit of correction before that bearish push. Euro yen, I also think we'll see a bounce. But it is in a bearish trend, but we could see it bounce to maybe 159.13. It is not out of the question, but there is some strong support around 155.60 level. The Aussie yen coming up here, also testing support here at 94 and a quarter. Could bounce, but we are in a bearish trend. And we could see it dipping to 93.65, 93 even. And finally on the sterling yen, dancing around the 786 retracement. Well, basically between the 786 retracement and the 61.8 retracement right here. If it takes out, you see these spikes lows there. And let me just also, oh, that was the wrong one. Sorry about that. Here we are. Little bit of support there, we can say 188.14. I would say if it takes out 188.10, well, then we'll see a push below 187. Otherwise, we could see a little bit of a bounce there too. Aussie dollar, well, hovering around the 63.30 area, what got rejected at 100 moving average, didn't even get up to the 138.2 projection, and we could now see a setback down to 63, 62.90, maybe even a little bit lower to the 55 moving average. But if it takes out the let's just do this. Here we are. There. If it takes out 62.30, then a bearish trend will resume. Dollar Canada on move, pushing higher, and I think we could see it push higher, but will it get back above the 140.44? That is debatable. And let's add that to, okay, hang on, there we are. We need to get up there. There we are. And trying to get up to 143.96, so not 144. We could see that. Key question, will RSI goes above 40 threshold or not? Sterling Canada, strong move yesterday. above 181. We talked about yesterday there was potential up there. Now it actually pushed even higher. Positive sentiment on the RSI. I think we will be looking at 182 fairly shortly, and now there's actually potential higher. But it will be it will not be without struggling, and we could see some setback. It's very volatile, but 182 is in the cards. EURUSD is boring to talk about. It's just in this wide range here between 93.30 and 95 and change. So let's move on to dollar Swiss, a little bit more interesting. Testing 100 moving average below the cloud and testing 89.50. 89.15 support could break lower, and if it does, well, then we are looking at levels around 88 and the 200 moving average. So what I'll do, I'll just add a trend line to these levels over here between this level here at 87.80 and lower to 87.30, but we are not there yet. Definitely we could still see a bounce and trying to get back in the cloud to know what's a 90 level, but keep an eye on this 89.50, really key support. Dollar index dancing around this 106.42 and the 100 moving average. Could it bounce towards back towards at least the 55 moving average and here at 107.75, or will it push lower to 105.35 support? Maybe a correction underway in gold's sell-off yesterday, testing the lower rising trend line there, but bounced, and we're still above it. But as we can see, there is actually divergence on the RSI. You can see the RSI values have declined, where the market moved higher, the prices moved higher. So we could be in for a correction. How big it will be, well, that's still up in the air. So let's see if we add Fibonacci to it, we could get maybe a guesstimate here. We have some strong support here at 28.54. Could drop all the way down to 28.14, but it needs to break. If it takes out the lower part of this cloud here yesterday, the 28.88 and the rising trend line, well, then 28.54 is in play. It's out the 29.56 and a bit here from a couple of days ago. Well, then we are looking at 3,000. On silver sold off heavily, so just above the 100 moving average again. That's the second time it did that and then bounced higher. We have support here at 31. It needs to get back above 32, 35 to resume uptrend. Copper seems to resuming uptrend after bouncing from the 450. Just it spiked below the 450 and then a strong bounce. So what I will do, I'll remove this one and then we can add a new one and then say, okay, this is what you do. We can have an idea where we're going to. We are currently trading around the 61.8 retracement, but uptrend has been resumed, and medium term, I'm still bullish. I think we're still the bullish picture remains intact, and if it moves back above the peak there at 483.65, then we are looking at plus 500. On crude oil and WTI, we saw a takeout $70 yesterday, massive sell-off there below 69, some support here at 68.40. I think it will be tested. I also think it will be taken out, and there's now potential down to this area here around 67, 66, 70. We can see here on the weekly what's going on. Some support down here. There's actually potential down to 65, 64. The RSI on weekly got rejected at the 60 threshold. We're still in negative sentiment, so we could push very well push lower. Also, the Brent crude oil took out 74.10 support and is now eyeing 72 and 70 level, 70 spot 72. Some support here. We could dip down to these lows here we saw last year. Also on European gas, testing 43.17 support below the cloud, negative sentiment on the RSI. If it takes it out, the lows from today actually, then there's potential down to below 40 and the 200 moving average coming up here. So that was a bit of a collapse we totally saw there. I think we could bounce a little bit and then next move lower. Henry Hub, on the other hand, has bounced from the 390 and the 38.2 retracement. If it takes out the 390, well, then we're looking at 355. But it will probably try to get back above here at the 447. If it takes out the peak from last week, then we are looking at higher levels. US 10-year yield yesterday really dropped significantly below 440, below the 100 moving average, down to support here at 428. And has bounced this early morning. We could bounce. It needs to get back above 440 to at least try to stay in this range here up to 450. If it takes out 428, well, then suddenly we're looking at 415, 410 area. The 2-year below 415 yesterday. Opening here, as we can see, bounce quite a bit 415. If it closes back above 415, well, then it could push towards 424, 25 again. But for now, we're in a bearish trend with a potential down to around 4%. So on the European side and the Euro 10-year, well, hovering around the 245 here. Let's just about that. Here we are. Let's just zoom in a little bit. There we are. Around the 50% retracement of this uptrend here. We have the 55 moving average coming up, giving some support. So I think we will be in this area here between 240, 250 for the next few days before we could see a push lower. But what is interesting, if you just zoom out a little bit, we can see that here this big triangle-like pattern here. Maybe we'll switch to the weekly chart, and I think that is key to watch out for. Unfortunately, TradingView is not that easy to work with. This big triangle-like pattern it broke out of, tested from the other side, then bounced off. But if it takes out the spike up there, 263, well, then there's potential much higher. Moving on to the UK 10. Gone lower past few days. It couldn't keep up to towards the resistance there at 465, setting back now, but we have some support here at 440 and 438. That will be key. Bitcoin that took out 90,000 level yesterday and also 89. I took out the spike down here at where is it? There we are at 89,000 now in a bearish trend after this bearish breakout of the triangle-like pattern, and we could see it pushing lower. And how much lower? Well, we can actually measure this here, okay, and then we can push that lower and say, okay, after breakout, we could see a move down to 61.8 projection of that, which is around 81,000. Ethereum. Well, Ethereum spiked lower to 2,300 and then bounced. And if it takes out 2,300, well, then we are looking at lower levels around 21 and 2,000, these levels down here. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again later.